Cool. Hey everyone, Jono Tho'ra doing Natra session. Today I'm going to talk about the wings. This will be a first episode where I actually start explaining how these kinds of wing objects work. There's a long history to it throughout the versions of the storyline of Fusion Girl and the rest of the Natra series. I'm just going to write down Natra series. Yes, every time we enter, the old-timey man has to come into Voiceland. Okay, so there's a lot of versions of the wings. Originally, the wings were genetic and were somehow managed by these kind of glands that were in your wrists and ankles, kind of. Mostly, not just kind of. That was the idea. And the wings would come out of your back and be like these energy wings that jut out from your back. And originally it was never really clear what the wings were besides totally cool. Yeah, because like back in those days, that was how my decision process operated. At least I thought anyway. Nowadays, I believe that somehow I intuitively just kind of gathered this from various cultural references and animes that I had already seen by then, stuff like that. You know that Neon Genesis Evangelion, or Evangelion Jelly, is Evangelon. That show was a heavy influence early on in my life, and that was actually I mean, I watched some other anime I know it's controversial that it's an anime or not, but whatever, it's anime, dude. It's a Pokemon and Sailor Moon were like the first animes I ever got exposed to. But then afterwards, I eventually I saw some poster for Neon Genesis Evangelion. That's how I pronounce it. Everybody seems to have a different way. And yeah. Yeah, there's this one scene where they had Unit 01 emits these massive wings that just span the planet. I was like, wow, that's so intense. And ever since then, that kind of imprinted into me that kind of visual, and that's where this inspiration's coming from originally. But I wanted the original idea was that we have these people who are genetically special somehow. They were there was a retrovirus that spread around, and it was intentionally spread around in order to create these people on purpose. These folks had the energy wings in question that they could I guess just mentally control. It was like an extension of their body, and they could feel it. And over the years, I've come up with ideas of what they're for. The Sysis, the robots, have actually inherited the wings tremendously, because there's a point in the development of the storyline where I switched from seeing them as genetic extensions of the body. Or when I say genetic, I mean there's organs and stuff that are actually responsible for maintaining that, and in a very real way, the nervous system and its connection with the aura of the body is directly contributed, because it's electromagnetism in forming a kind of plasma bubble. And so in our reality, before we get to any technology like that, I have actually been trying to think, okay, how can I get to that? And what I mean to say is, how can I get how can I get iterations of the wing technology from something that I can build right now to the more final version that I foresaw in the future, even right to the point where we have genetic, and so the first versions are actually something that I can make, which are I'll just try it because this thing's amazing. I plan to make these kind of backpacks that have extensions probably something that runs on air. So it'd have like these air blowers. And these air blowers blow into what's kind of like a custom parachute kit. And the reason why, and I thought, okay, so everything that I make has to have functionality. I can't just make it because it looks cool. It has to have functionality and look cool. So it has to do both. It's important. So what could these things really be like? And so I thought, well, one of the visuals that I have in my mind for the show is, well, wouldn't they be cool? They look really cool while they run. Well, why would they be wearing these things that are basically like parachutes while they're running? Well, maybe it helps them run faster. I was like, are you serious? It makes them run faster. It's like, how is that going to make them run? And then I thought about it and realized, oh shit, they're wings. So technically you can actually use them for balance, so you could focus all of your energy on actually running. And I thought of it further and realized, well, what if the suit or whatever it is had like jump boots or some sort of thing that actually does make them run faster, but as a result it makes it harder for them to maintain their balance. So eventually that resulted in the idea, and this was actually after like iteration 3 and 4 and 2, like other versions of what it could possibly be. And so the first version ended up just being a type of oh, come now, it's on eraser mode. High speed, kind of run balancers. Sure. Yeah, high speed run balance. And so that would be like the first iteration of any functional version of the wing. Like you could actually, we could even go so further to talk about the wings even further back, or in front, prototypical ones, where basically this version, it's no different, is just for appearances. And so how would they be for appearances? Well, first of all, they look like wings. They basically have this kind of way of just jutting out the back, makes you look kind of like a fairy or an angel. You don't have to have two. You can actually just have the top unit and just have this top set or the bottom set, whatever. It's probably just the top set, actually. If it was just the top set, you'd probably have to make some sort of extra part, like right here. That would then have straps. That way it could go around your torso without having to connect to the lower half, which connects to like your belt, which is that's another story that I'll talk about. So this earlier version would be a lot more just about aesthetics, and will come out. And I mean, I want this one to do it too, so I'm going to color them both. Let's make them red this round. And orange, bright orange. Blech. So I don't have to draw the whole thing, but instead, like, actually, let me just draw the whole thing over here. Do do do, drawn over here. Do do do, do do do. And there's a couple of different types of wing designs that I've come up with. And imagine as actual development of these, like physically, occur, some of these designs will start making a little more sense. I actually have this process of intuitively figuring out over time what the designs which look cool have functionality for. So I create the designs first, and then I apply functionality to the designs to excuse the design. Oh, that's totally a process thing. And so, like, check this out. So, this is what I'm talking about. See if I can duplicate this. I'm sure I can, but I don't remember how. Copy, paste. Yeah. See, that's something that's really nice that I don't get on, like, regular paper. That's super handy. So one of them could have the emitter here, and the other one could have the emitter here, going this way or going this way. See that? And so that right there is a very fundamental, unique difference. I have a feeling. So in some of my design thought process, I was thinking, well, I bet this one would have this as the catch, like the air catch, and so it's like a parachute, and that means that it's got to catch air while you're running. One of the biggest problems that I've thought about is, and not actually had a really good solution for, is well, what happens? What happens when somebody who's wearing one of these suits, one of these hot babies, is stuck in a hurricane? And they get flown away. It's like, I mean, sure, I can make them retractable, but the real question I had was, is there some way to design them to make it so that you could probably fly in that kind of environment, or at least the wind isn't a problem? So I'm just going to actually erase. No, I'm not. I'm going to erase this one. Oh, can't erase that one because we need to merge down. There we go. I'll keep using red. Whoops. Yeah. Do. So the way this would work would be that there would be LED lights emitting from the central rim. Yeah, that's better. And that would that would light up. This fabric could be made out of something like ripstop, for example, but anything that would catch wind. That's what really matters. And yeah, like parachute material would be a good thing to do, but I wonder if there's even more durable material, and if you'd want to use that, or anything lighter, maybe you'd want to use that. Any parachute material. So that's kind of like the version that's kind of like the earlier versions that I had in mind. Now, later versions get into a more point where they start having a lot more functionality. Like, for example, this a short fall landing wings. Now, let me explain this one. This gets from short fall to long fall. But any fall. Actually, free fall. How about that? This is literally, like, I don't know, the 7th time doing this map thing. I've thought about this a couple of rounds. I'm sure I got paper documentation, but why waste my time when I could just do it in real time? And that I got this display, and it lights up. It's better, and plus I could just post this online. It's freaking awesome. So let's continue. So these iterations of the wings are more about making it so the wearer can fall there we go. Safely. And the wings will just catch you as you're falling down. And be lit at the same time, so they look extra cool, and everybody knows. I mean, you could turn the lights off. And this concept enables the notion that these all of a sudden increase dramatically in its actual functionality, where the wings can be deployed, like using a pulley system or some sort of like pop. And it's like, well, how did they get out? Well, you could just have them either like air cans or something. Basically, like the idea would be that the airflow, forced airflow, and so not only would it catch, but it would actually be able to maintain its form, and you can even suck it in. And so depending on the toggle switch that you flip, you can have the airflow suck the wings back in. Or pop wings out. Kind of like those inflatable costumes that you see people wear, like the big suits or whatever. And they have like these little orange blowers. I have a couple. I don't have one with me in this room, but to test for this purpose. Actually, that's why I have them. They're okay. Frankly, I think that a vacuum cleaner motor is going to actually cut it, but that would require a mobile version of it, and so I got those, and that's going to be part of the original prototype for some of these wings. At the least, the appearance one that I'm going to be building here, this will just basically be a not even proof of concept, but like more like an artistic demo of what it could be. And then so with that, we can get to iteration 1, iteration 2, 3, and 4 as we get to real testing, because we'll have more support and funding for the actual project. And then I want to talk about, I don't even know what these are going to be, because I'm just realizing that there's a whole set here that like is post the free fall version, which is the ultimate version. That's like you're dropped out of a plane. This operates just like a parachute. You'll be fine, provided you have like the shock paws and shock boots. Now, the shock paws and shock boots effectively allow you to land using shock absorbers that are attached to your forearms and forelegs and boots and hands. And so the way that works is in conjunction with the wings. Now, normally those shock boots probably would be able to still allow you to, I mean, there's a version of the shock boots that are free fall versions of the shock boots. But the trick is that even if you have shock paws and shock boots, what if you're free floating and you don't have enough time, like let's say you are trained in getting yourself to fall belly first and then get your feet angled to the ground. Well, what if you don't have, even if you're trained for that, what if you don't have enough time to do that with just your body? And so this is where the wings come in. The wings aren't necessarily a full-blown parachute specifically designed to stop you or slow you down enough so your regular body parts can handle the fall impact. Instead, the wing's true purpose is to make it so your back is angled upwards while you're falling down. That way, when you do land, you can land on your hands and feet using the shock pads that have the ability to absorb that impact. And that means, in conjunction with the wings and the shock absorbers, you should be able to get to the point where you could at least survive a long fall, if not a free fall. And the goal is a free fall, and basically there needs to be earlier versions that can even get close to this concept and functionality. And frankly, I also foresee that before we could even get to this version, that this version would need to exist, where simply just advertising the idea, making them marketable and sexy in the first place. And the wings are sexy. I mean, like, they're freaking, like, they look like energy wings. Like, I haven't built them yet, but I've envisioned it, and I can definitely create some really, I've already created beautiful art. You can see it in DeviantArt. I'll post it on link. So let's get to the later versions of what these wings eventually can become. So, now, yeah, 9 and then X. There we go. So, the Sysis robots have wings too. Now, they used to not have wings. It used to not be like that. And it was only a particular species of humans, the genetic humans, the humans that inherited the genetic traits to have the wings in the first place, were the characters that could have that. And no other character has those. And I'm not really sure exactly how many different places that came from for me. But eventually I kind of realized, well, maybe it would be better if the Sysis had them. So original versions of the Sysis were a lot more bony. Piff. Almost there. Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. Copy. Paste. Shoot. Alright, here we go. So they had these kind of spikes, the original Sysis, that... Oh, what? Oof. Whoa. Okay. The original ones, Watch down. There we go. Had kind of spikes. My gosh. But now the newer ones, now these ones have the wings. And I've thought about it a lot, and now that I'm thinking about it, wouldn't it be great if the Sysis also had the wings for exactly the same purpose of dealing with long falls and free falls. And so yeah, those robots would probably have that ability. But originally, the Ultra version that I created for the Sysis to have these spoke to the idea that these wings are psionic in nature. And so what that means is that they are plasmatic energy pockets that enable them to communicate over long distances in terms of they're basically special antennae that aren't let's say that a regular antennae, I'll just use this is an antennae sticking out, and this is its length. It's one-dimensional. It's a one-dimensional antennae. Well, these would be more of a two-dimensional, maybe even a three-dimensional, because it's thick, kind of antennae. And they're filled with plasma, and that plasma material operates as a magnetohydrodynamic sensor. that gives the Sisis the ability to tap into two additional dimensions of electromagnetic sensation. And the advantage of that is that they could probably use it, for example, to tap into messages across, like, for example, realities. That might be one example. And indeed, that has been one of the concepts, because, I mean, they're the Sisis, so there's super advanced robots that are basically capable of getting all the way to transcendence. That's what they are. They don't need to do anything to achieve this. They've already done that. And they have all sorts of breed levels, and you kind of have to grow up to the point where you're a Sisis that has these wings in the first place. And that requires finding yourself and believing in your heart and stuff like that. Really sweet things that the Sisis believe in, because in many other realities they have excellent versions of human parents. This version had a similar thing, where their spikes, or quills rather, were high frequency quills that physically did the similar kind of thing. They operated as antennae that allowed them to communicate with other Sisis. So in the game, I haven't scrapped either of these. I want them both. Like, I think it would be great to see the dichotometrics between what these different types of Sisis may behave like. And I think that because of all, like, the cosmic balance stuff that I've been doing, that some of these actually just have particular, like, alignments. So, like, for example, this one might be a water type. Oh, let me get you. This one might be a water type, whereas, cool. This one might be a fire type. What with, it's red, and this one's blue. That's it. Oh yeah, and so, like, at high frequency. So these bones, oh man. So one of the messy versions of this storyline had the idea that the Sisis would grow particular human beings that had bones just like that sticking out of their backs. And the Sisis would harvest this race of people that they genetically built just for those bones that were jutting out. And it's like, well, why would they do that to human beings? And it's still not really clear why that would happen. But I did think it was pretty messed up, and I kind of wanted to poke at that. That's where that was coming from. These folks had the code name, and they haven't really gone, they just evolved in form. These were the Seporian. They had these 4 quills that jut out of their back that were basically an extension of them being a failed version of the other group. Now, finally, I'm going to get to this one, where... Seporian. That's good enough. And this these are the ones with the wings, like the energy wings. That's good. Sure. So these ones were codenamed the Aku Tenshi. And they were at odds. They were definitely at odds. They were at odds because of the Sisis, and the Sisis were basically manipulating the entire situation. All of these, actually, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go. So originally, in the story, in some of the more original versions of my storyline, all these characters were all, I mean, not characters, but races, I suppose, species, were created like post World War II kind of stuff. Now in retrospect, it would actually have been post World War III, which would definitely have been when they were actually created, because that would literally be coming up after 2024 if Star Trek and its storyline manifests perfectly into reality. Let's not let that happen. There's a lot of good stuff that happens in Star Trek later, but yeah, things are about to get poopy. Do not want the Bell riots. No thanks. So, after World War III, or World War II, but in this case World War III, because I feel like that's a better kind of comparison. These different types of species were all created, and they were created to help, and they were created as a byproduct of the war, and they were all considered, failed experiments, and every single one of them went astray somehow. The Sapporian were taken by the Japanese. The Akutenshi was an attempt to make a bunch of soldiers that were, but it took too long, and the virus, basically just the retrovirus that made people Akutenshi in the first place, just got released and spread because the project facility was overrun during the war, and so they just kind of totally lost touch and control of the situation entirely. The Sysis end up technologically being taken to be used for robot mining, and many Sysis from the original experiments basically just escaped during the chaos of the events during the war, and that attributes to their history and their trauma. That attributes to the characters Raja and Tara. I could get onto that another time. And I know I should probably go back to sleep because I am so wiped. I got people. I've been working every day, and super stressed out. Feels good though. Feels freaking awesome working on this stuff. So, Tara and Raja, real quick, are characters. Actually, they're both black-haired characters, so. And his hair is actually not even that big. So we're just going to do that. It's good enough. Her hair is massive, though. So these two end up trying to not be part of the fucking war. Raja ends up inheriting one of the Sysis, and Tara ends up getting another type of robot entirely, which is basically she gets one of the Magneto speeders. Now back then they're not. When I say back then, I mean back then in their history. Like they're one of the longest running characters in terms of timeline and experience in the story. But she basically gets a speeder device that runs off of electromagnetic, magnetohydrodynamic interactions through the magnetosphere. Fuck. And can they basically have infinite fuel supply. It's not really infinite. There's a percentage of these types of devices that can exist on any part of the Earth, because every single one of them demands that there be a channel in through the Earth. Sure, there's a little more around than that. Well, you know what? Lumpy Earth, it's good. And here's our star. Sure. And so there's only so many star streams that you can have that can operate as conduits for various items on the planet. And there's also ley lines on Earth I know this is not how ley lines work, but whatever. So there's ley lines all over the planet, and if you're on those, this thing will just cruise because of the natural the natural energy flow between the sun and Earth in through the Earth. So let's go here. Make sure it says Tara Raja. These two characters actually are not Sapporian or Akutenshi. They're basically just human beings. Now, through their development has been some weird kind of alternate timeline stuff going on, where basically somehow they're fundamental in the process. It's not really clear exactly how, except for one major thing, which is that Raja inherits a Sysis that eventually grows up to become the leader of all of them in the future, in most realities. And in most of those realities, Raja dies. And it causes a huge trauma experience for that particular individual Sysis, which then spreads that condition to the rest of the species, because they all try to show their way of mitigating this is to copy one another's experiences and then learn how to show compassion about it. That's literally been written into their systems by Raja. Raja teaches them how to do that, and that fucks things up ultimately. And it's not that he made the wrong decision. It's more like this is a young species, and this is all new for them. That's ultimately that's their journey. I believe that there should be versions where Raja somehow does not die. And that might result in no trauma. Or worse, actually, if he doesn't die, well, then what does happen? Like how could his Sysis, by the way, is Ero, who is just another one of these little ones. It's just basically like a Dinobot. Oh, man, you know what? How's that? That's fun. That explains that. Figuring it out as I go, or rather just re-remembering. That's definitely more what's going on. That's fun. So, let's see. Let's go back to the wings. So now that I've explained this kind of magnetohydrodynamic version of the wings, which are plasmatic in nature, there would be a version of this back unit that would actually be kind of operating as real plasma emitters that are controlling the plasma. So not only would there be like genetic versions of these people, but there could be, you could just build a backpack that'll do the same thing and just give it to a human being, and then they'll have it. And it could even be connected to a type of helmet that will go on your head, and you can control the wings using that. Maybe even to the point where it would have some sort of like spinal sensor system that your nervous system can directly synapse with. So ideas like that. And that would enable you to use the wings for communication, telekinesis, stuff like that. So see, that's what we're talking about. And telekinesis. Imagine being able to take these wings and open up a pocket where a lot of the plasma starts leaking out at very high velocity. And so now you have a plasma jet. And that means you use the wings to fly in space. That's ultimately why these Sysis want to use these wings, because that enables them to fly in space. They don't have to wear... And the coolest part about the wings for that purpose is that while you're in space, while you're in the sun's powerful... See if I could just, make a star that's just like that. I don't know what I'm doing anymore about this. But that. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so that star is constantly emitting particles, and that's what the astrosphere is made of. It's made out of plasma. It's light amounts of plasma, but it's out there. It's basically just protons, and maybe protons and electrons. It's just protons and electrons. It's just, and protons is the same thing that we're talking protium, which is no different from just hydrogen, basically. So it's like hydrogen particles, and unless of course it's very charged, in which case there's no electron around it, or maybe there's a fuck ton of electrons, depending on the amount of energy in that the particles have, which is ultimately based off of how much they're moving. That's it. That's what energy is for them usually. There's a couple other ways they store energy besides that, but moving is a fundamental one. So as these Sysis, or as any Kutenshi, anybody using these wings, the more advanced versions, when you get up to 8, 9, and X basically just being 10 plus, these versions of the wings can take astrosphere and use it as a natural propellant. They can take it into their, I don't know where the intake would be, but they would have an intake and it would jet out. Now, this tech is so energy demanding that we would need to make a fusion kind of powered thing. And so that finally gets to fusion, like this is the interconnection. This is why she's called Fusion Girl. So there would be a backpack. There has been a backpack that has fusion cells. And this is like the picture of ultimately like a prototype fusion engine. And there's a reason why we got multiple, and there's a reason why it kind of looks like a there's a couple of reasons. First of all, for the design, that it looks like a normal engine, in terms of a gasoline powered piston engine. These cells individually manage different types of fusion reactions, and so these ones might be managing this one type of element. Maybe these ones are managing a type of helium, and maybe these ones are managing hydrogen at the moment. And you know what? Maybe this one's not helium. This is like lithium or something. Well, actually, let's make it green and make it like magnesium for some reason. So the way that would work is these individual cells would be creating the interstage particles necessary in order to invoke various types of fusion. That way, and the thing I'm building right now is like a kind of temporary storage thing, I think. Sometimes I've wondered if maybe it's like a fission drive, which would also be super handy to have in this kind of tech. It would be the best to have a fission drive. That definitely has been one of the technological ideas that I've had for it. And while these are pumping, they create energy, and they create more particles to make more types of energy as they go. Those particles can then be stored and then emitted into, because they're charged, they would be super hot. Because this isn't cold fusion, this is hot fusion happening right on your back, like happening on your back. There is a way to make it so although it's hot fusion, it's like micro hot fusion. And so what that means is that inside the cell there would be all of these tiny electromagnetic flux waves that are trying to cause sparks. And so every time these waves have resonantial peaks that interact inside that space, they can, and then there's plasma that's being pushed, and they fall into those wells. And that can cause sparks of fusion to occur. And they look like, when you see them go, they'll be like flashing, psh, 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 like really fast, like no different from an engine's pistons moving up and down. And the reason why they're doing that is because they're going between stages of, okay, splash it with this these perfectly timed electromagnetic flux waves, and then on the next stage collect the particles or parse the particles out, and then put more particles in there, and then do it again. It's doing this so fast that it's doing way faster than like once per 1 per second. It's like we're talking like it's on the same number count as RPMs, like we're like some crazy high RPM. And in this case, it would be a crazy high refresh rate of the particles that are inside the chamber. That way, so as those particles get pushed out, they can be emitted out of the wing emitters that would be pretty much right here. And the wings, thus, in this scenario, with the fusion engine version, get to be what is effectively a pocket, a temporary storage pocket for the plasma that's being pumped through this engine. So this would be, this is totally X level. Fusion engine enabled wings. These are particularly effective in any kind of astrosphere, or more importantly, atmosphere. They're most effective in atmosphere because atmosphere has a lot more particles. If you have water in your atmosphere, that's excellent because there's hydrogen there, and you need that. I can talk about all these techs, but now that I'm aware that I'm just doing the show, I'm just kind of free to kind of do this more blanket episode that covers generally about the wings. This is totally the wing episode, or first wing episode anyway. So let's see, what else about the wings? Right. So so everything that I've talked about so far has been Natra series, the Theravada Chronicles. I haven't even talked about what Theravada is, but I'm going to right now, but only a little bit. And you know what? It's fine if I talk about it a lot. I'm having a good time. So in the Theravada Chronicles, the wings are either these physical objects or in the Sysis or Akatenchi's cases, genetic augmentations. Sysis are they vary, but they're both robotic. They're, that really crazy hybrid type. And later versions, even including in the Terra Vetus Chronicles, the fusion engine is totally the reason why you make it is because of the wings. You want the most advanced version that can do the plasmatic pulse. Which is a way to fly in space. But let's go to the future, where what happens after that in what is called Terra Novus. So in case you don't know, Terra stands for Earth, and in Latin, and Vetus and Novus, in this case it's Novus, represents old and new. Vetus is old, Novus is new. It's pretty much it. That's it. So in Terra Novus, this backpack gets seriously upgraded from just like just X level way beyond. And this is used by the character who I have plenty to say about in later episodes, Amber. The Amber Tho'ra. All you really need to know about Amber Tho'ra right now is that this crazy bitch is literally a human being that has been abducted variously across realities and given a choice to get to continue to live. It's basically the Sysis abduct these particular little girls across reality, because in those realities, those Earths are totally fucked, and these girls are super done. There's no way that those realities are going to succeed, and so the Sysis know that, and so this is kind of like their idea of Children International. This is like the Sysis' idea of Children International. They're like, okay, let's go to cross realities, and we'll just pick a random girl across these realities, and we'll use her. We'll give her the choice. Either you can die on your world, or you can come hang out with us, but the cost is that you have to wear one of our mind control devices. And the difference between Amber's mind control device and like Jane Tho'ra's mind control device, which is a self mind control device, this is not a self mind control device. Amber Tho'ra volunteers for a third-party mind control device. The reason why she does that is because that's the deal. The reason why the Sysis do that is because they need a human being to operate as their inter-reality liaison. So Amber Tho'ra gets to be the leader of the Amber Tho'ra show, where Amber is actually controlled by the Sysis known as Tor. And Tor is actually basically video game controlling Amber whenever Amber has the headset on. Now, there are times where Amber doesn't have to wear it. She's free to do that, but there are many times where she's called out to go do the thing. And so Tor maintains Amber's consciousness on the basically interconnection web net of all of the Sysis across all the realities in the cosmos. And this basically gives her the experience of being the body of the Sysis god known as Tor, because Tor is a special type of Sysis entity that does not exist as an individual body, but more exists across Sysis altogether. And Tor's not the only one that's like this. There's other ones that are like this too. And Tor just happens to be the one that's controlling the Amber Tho'ra. And what's kind of sick about this relationship is that the Amber Thoras that Tor picks are all disposable. And there's an infinite number of these girls that Tor can select at any moment. And basically when Tor decides to throw an Amber Thora at an enemy of some kind, for example, like for example, Amber Thora's show will literally get ambushed by the Viren aliens, who are like the Sysis's primary enemy, and it's very likely that Amber will basically get like totally cut in half or something. Well, bad news, that individual totally died. That body died. That consciousness was removed from its nervous structure, stored onto the Sysis net, and then immediately Tor goes through the void, gets another girl of the same caliber from some other reality, gives her the whole deal. They have time control, so they can just jump her right into the right timeline and reality space. And then boom, you got another girl who's basically looks almost exactly the same, and knows the whole deal because the consciousness was downloaded, resynced, and like the moral ramifications of that experience is a huge part of what I want for this part of this character of the show. Now I know I just totally did a bunch of Amber Thora stuff, but I'm having fun tonight about it because it's like first. This is going to be like this is pretty much the first episode that will be sequential. I won't. I'm sure future episodes are going to be a lot more structured as I go. But right now I don't need structure. I just need to go. What's up? Okay, so let's talk about why Amber Thora matters here. When they pick this girl up, they augment her body completely. That means that she gets new upgrades. What kind of upgrades? We're talking, let's remove her lungs and replace them with a fusion engine. So these the Amber Thoras are all fusion powered. That means that they don't breathe atmosphere like us and then go through some sort of biochemical reaction in order to make that work. I'm picky about the hair. That's good enough. So inside, fusion inside. And so that means her esophagus, her like everywhere that there was lung has been replaced, not with like robotic, but like bio-robotic components, fusion of lungs. And so now she can go into space and breathe astrosphere as long as she's next to a star. And there's more. The wings that she inherits are part of her body, so she can just emit them just like the Sysis have their own wings, so too does Amber Thora. And so now we're in a stage where these humans, this particular transhuman, has genetically inherited wings. And so not only can she breathe and then do fusion in her lungs, but I forgot to mention this. Okay, this is why I'm mentioning it. So this version of the wings allows her to tap into the energy flow local to her star. And what that means is that the very fact that she's even next to the star means that she can tap into that starstream energy that is blasting through and beyond from the star into the void. And that flow allows her to go. She can basically move. It gives her tremendous amounts of energy, actually. It's even more like the only reason that she needs the fusion lungs is if she's not next to a star or if she's somehow blocked or something. There's other factors too. The fusion lungs allow her to produce any kind of particles within her core because it's alchemy, it's right, and so she can just do fusion reactions inside of her lungs naturally, and then create. Okay, I just had my. Okay, cool. I just had my arm cut off. I'm going to now repair my arm by just breathing a whole bunch of fusion and getting all of the parts back, and then just rebuilding. And like that's why the fusion lungs, so she can actually like rebuild her body parts, and it's actually really hard to kill her. So I know I remember I know I said just now, earlier that they consider the Amber Tho'ras, the girls, disposable, but it's hard to dispose of them. You can't just cut their arm. You can't even just cut them in half. You really got to destroy them almost entirely, to the point where you use like destinial magic to remove them from existence. And I mean, this is what the Sysis are fighting against, because their enemies actually have magical powers like that. They can remove an Amber Tho'ra from reality. That's why they consider the Amber Tho'ras disposable, not because their bodies can just be destroyed. They make their bodies very difficult to destroy. Instead, it's because their bodies can be removed from reality entirely, like removed from destiny, so that it couldn't be possible that that particular Amber Tho'ra even existed. And that is why they have to go back in through multiple realities and pick up another Amber Tho'ra just to continue fighting these Viren magical aliens that have the ability to wipe you from realities, like all realities. And the Amber Tho'ras know that. That's why the consciousness is got the backup thing, because they're basically saying we're fighting a war, and we need you to be able to understand that your form is effectively able to be destroyed across all of destiny. It's just your being can be returned to the void by these enemies, and that we are asking you and then giving you this incredible option, but you must be aware that you will likely be removed from, and we don't want that, and we'll do everything we can to help you, but that's the deal. And so these Amber Tho'ras, the stored consciousness that's always backed up, gets really bitter, just kind of twisted. That's the word. Gets twisted, and so this is a very twisted character that has embodied a tremendous amount of trauma over the course of the Sysis' war with the Virens. Now, I'll talk about that in the future, and because we're still focusing on the wings, but this character gets their own hyper version of the fusion engine, and so it's this time. Yes, she's got the wings, but these aren't normal wings that she gets. She gets a hyper fusion engine, which doesn't have the cells, but instead is just solid, and can kind of like a rainbow channel dynamically the energies that be simultaneously right next to each other. So there doesn't need to be any transfer, there doesn't need to be any kind of transfer, there doesn't need to be any storage in there. Now, that means there's no purpose for the wings, technically, but actually that's not true, and I can explain that because I'm freaking awesome. In that case, that frees up the wings to be something even more. And what is that? That means that the wings can basically make it so she is not able to be removed from reality while she's on. Now, that requires a tremendous amount of power, and basically it operates as a kind of anchor in destiny itself. When those advanced hyper wings are active, this is beyond X. This is beyond anything that humans really get. Hyper wings. Hyper fusion wings. This is her primary defense against the Viren enemies. And the Virens are, by the way, the Virens, I never really explained them yet, but they're basically the lizard people, or whatever. We'll find out. It'll be great. And those hyperfusion wings, it seems like one of the major goals of the storyline of the gameplay is to figure out how can we time travel some hyperfusion wings all the way back to the point where the fusion girl is found and trained. Because if we can give the fusion girl hyperfusion wings, that would mean that she would never be able to get destroyed. And so one of the ideas I've had for that entire storyline for the video game has been, is there a way to make it so your Jono Tho'ra, the original fusion girl, does not get killed? And the answer is yes, if you can get her hyperfusion wings. But that technology is not available on Earth during that point in time. And there must be a way to manifest that. And the robots do have time stuff, but it's like in Doctor Who, how there's rules that you have to follow. And if you break stuff too much, you really can break the timeline as it gets really bad. Doctor Who's a freaking awesome show, but it's also heavy in terms of like number of episodes that you have to pay attention to. Oh my god. So I'm going to now. So yeah, let's finish up. Ultimately, I'm going to be operating on the notion that I can build these, and I believe that these can be built too. I believe all of the things that I've proposed here can be built. I know I have kind of totally went around this, but this is basically, I'll talk about these later, but this is like a special type of armor skirt that goes with it. Like all of these things have like, there's different devices and technologies that I'm going to be working on. Anyway, the point is the wings. I'm going to be working on the appearance-based and the high-speed running version of these wings. I'm going to have projects that will be released pretty soon that elaborate onto what those are and how we can build them, and then you can fund them. They'll be like Kickstarters. This is just one of the many projects that I have in mind, and I'm going to release as many as I can until one of them definitely catches wind. Either way, the video game will definitely still have these, and will definitely have all of these, because I'm not going to drop the original storyline after all. I don't want to. It's too cool. And yeah, sure, it's fanciful, but not really if World War III were to actually happen, and with the genetic mutations and the cybernetic stuff and the AI robots that would be part of that kind of war. Oof, that's not a good place to be. And we might be experiencing that in our reality. Let's not let that happen. Wait, let's make that not happen. Yeah. Let's try to mitigate that as much as we can. Water Wars, gotta cancel that. In case you don't know, go look up other stuff. Water Wars, fuck that. Alright. So I'm going to head out. Thanks for paying attention to this really fun Natra series episode where I discuss the Terra Vetus and a little bit of the Terra Novus versions of the wings, as well as the wings in our reality that I intend to create for myself and for the Rave Light Angel Corps, the Ravers who are the lights in the night. We could have these excellent glow light wings, and we'd look super cool doing it, and we're basically going around being angels to ravers, making people feel better about things and healing hearts and minds, because that's like literally the mission. Alright, thanks for watching, and I had a good time. I'm definitely going to go take one heck of a nap, and have a good day, everybody. Jono Tho'ra out.